Imagine a tiny group of islands surrounded by nothing but the vast Atlantic Ocean.
There are no neighboring cities just a short drive away. No huge mainland waiting across the border. Fresh water is limited, land is scarce, most everyday goods have to travel thousands of miles to reach the island, and powerful hurricanes can threaten everything in their path.
Yet, despite all of this, around 60,000 people have built their lives here.
They go to work, raise families, run businesses, go to school, and live remarkably modern lives.
But how is that even possible? How can an entire society survive on such a small and isolated piece of land in the middle of the Atlantic? And perhaps the most surprising question is this: why would anyone choose to live there?
Let's find out how Bermuda actually works, how its people survive, and what makes this tiny island so different from almost anywhere else on Earth.
Bermuda is often imagined as a tropical paradise.
When people hear the name, they usually picture crystal clear turquoise water, beautiful beaches, colorful houses, and warm sunshine.
But look beyond the postcard image, and you discover something much more fascinating.
Bermuda is made up of a group of islands in the North Atlantic Ocean, far from the continental United States.
Its total land area is surprisingly small. And that creates an unusual problem.
There simply isn't much room.
In a huge country, cities can expand outward. New neighborhoods can be built farther away. Roads can become wider.
Bermuda doesn't have that luxury.
Every piece of land matters.
The roads are narrow.
Houses are packed relatively close together.
Large cars are not practical.
And instead of giant highways filled with vehicles, you often see people moving around on small scooters. In fact, scooters have become one of the defining features of everyday transportation in Bermuda. But transportation is only one part of the challenge. The biggest question is something every human society must answer.
Where does the water come from?
Bermuda doesn't have large rivers flowing across the island.
It doesn't have enormous freshwater lakes supplying millions of gallons of drinking water. So the people of Bermuda developed a remarkably clever solution.
They collect rainwater.
And this is where Bermuda's famous white roofs become extremely important. At first glance, those stepped white roofs look like a beautiful architectural tradition. But they're actually part of a practical water system. When rain falls onto the roof, the design helps channel the water toward collection systems, where it can eventually be stored underground. So when you look at a traditional Bermudian house, you're not simply looking at a roof. You're looking at part of the island's water infrastructure. For centuries, people here have learned how to make the most of every rainfall. And that tells you something important about Bermuda. On a small island, survival often depends on using ordinary things in extraordinary ways. But water isn't the only resource Bermuda has to think carefully about.
Food is another major challenge.
There isn't enough farmland to produce everything the population needs.
That means Bermuda depends heavily on imports.
Ships and aircraft bring food, fuel, construction materials, machinery, and countless other products from overseas.
This is one reason life in Bermuda can be expensive. Imagine needing something as ordinary as a product from a supermarket.
In a large mainland country, that product might travel a few hundred miles from a factory or farm.
On Bermuda, it may have to cross a significant portion of the Atlantic before reaching the island.
And transportation costs don't simply disappear.
They eventually become part of the price people pay.
This is one of the hidden realities of island life. The beautiful scenery may look effortless.
But maintaining a modern society in such a remote location requires an enormous logistical network. Yet somehow, Bermuda has built exactly that.
The island has modern hospitals, schools, businesses, hotels, restaurants, telecommunications, financial institutions,
and this leads to another surprising part of the story. Bermuda isn't simply surviving through tourism.
Tourism is important, but the island also has a major international business sector.
Bermuda became especially well known as a global center for insurance and reinsurance.
Companies from around the world have connections to the island. International money flows into Bermuda, and that economic activity helps support the high standard of living found there. So despite its tiny size, Bermuda is deeply connected to the global economy. And that connection is essential.
because Bermuda can't produce everything it needs.
Instead, it provides something valuable to the outside world and uses that economic strength to import what it cannot produce locally.
But there's one thing the people of Bermuda can never control.
The ocean.
And sometimes, the ocean becomes dangerous.
Bermuda is located in the Atlantic hurricane region.
When a powerful storm approaches, life on the island can change very quickly. Winds become stronger. Winds become stronger. The sea becomes rough.
Flights and ferry services can be disrupted.
Businesses may close.
Residents have to secure their homes and prepare for the possibility of serious damage.
For people who have lived on Bermuda for generations, preparing for severe weather is simply part of island life.
And their homes reflect that reality.
Buildings are designed with the local environment in mind.
The famous roofs aren't just about collecting rainwater.
Construction methods also have to account for strong winds and storms. It's another example of something Bermudians have learned over generations.
You don't survive on a small island by fighting against nature. You survive by understanding it.
But if life can be expensive, land is limited, and hurricanes are always a possibility, why don't people simply leave?
This is home. Their families may have lived there for generations. Their childhood memories are there. Their communities are there.
Their traditions are there. And the island has a culture that is impossible to recreate somewhere else.
That's something outsiders can easily miss. From the outside, Bermuda may look like a remote location on a map, but for the people who live there, it isn't remote.
It's their neighborhood. It's where they meet friends. It's where children grow up. It's where families gather.
And it's where generations of history have been created. There's also another reason people are attracted to Bermuda.
The quality of life. Despite its challenges, the island offers something many people around the world dream of.
A relatively peaceful lifestyle, and an environment where the ocean is never far away. You can finish work and,
For visitors, that's a vacation. For residents, it's everyday life.
But perhaps the most fascinating thing about Bermuda is the balance. The island is small, but its society is sophisticated.
It's isolated geographically, but deeply connected economically.
It has limited freshwater, yet people have developed systems to collect and conserve rainwater.
it has very little land, yet thousands of people live there.
It faces powerful storms, yet its communities have learned how to prepare.
And although it depends heavily on imports, it has created an economy strong enough to support modern life.
In other words, Bermuda isn't surviving because it has everything. It's surviving because its people learned how to work with what they have. A small island forced them to think differently. Limited land changed transportation.
Limited water changed architecture. Limited resources created dependence on global trade.
And the unpredictable Atlantic created a culture of preparation and resilience.
So the next time you see a picture of Bermuda, don't just look at the pink beaches and turquoise water. Look a little deeper.
Behind those beautiful houses is a sophisticated rainwater system.
Behind those narrow roads is a completely different approach to transportation. Behind the tourist paradise is an international economy. And behind the peaceful scenery is a population that has spent generations learning how to live with the power of the Atlantic Ocean.
Perhaps that's the real story of Bermuda. It's not simply a beautiful island in the middle of nowhere.
It's an example of how human beings can adapt to extraordinary environments. Because when land is limited, water is precious, storms are powerful, and the nearest mainland is far away. You either adapt or you leave. And the people of Bermuda chose to adapt. That's why, despite its tiny size and isolated location, this remarkable island continues to be home to tens of thousands of people. A place where rain becomes drinking water, scooters replace endless highways, the ocean becomes both a barrier and a lifeline.
And a tiny piece of land in the middle of the Atlantic has managed to build a society that the rest of the world can't help but find fascinating.